So, you guys ever read of Mice and Men? If so, then the ending to that book is literally the ending to this show. What's up guys, Footnerd 47 here, welcome to Watching for the Plot. What I essentially do is stroll through the catacombs of the darkest parts of the internet to find animated erotic videos and then criticize them on the internet because no one else wants to hear me talk about it in the real world. But if you do, subscribe for more. Boys! So, Shimai Ijiri, or Slave Sisters, kinda gives away what is going to happen in the show, but I'm going to continue describing it anyway. So we have two sisters named Riku and Shunji, whose parents recently died, and the show starts off with them mourning at said funeral. And then after that, they walk through what I assume is miles upon miles until they finally get to Shunji's boyfriend's house, and his name is Iwashiro. And let's just say they have no idea what they're getting into. Or at least that is what we assume. Episode 1. So Iwashiro's a pretty chill guy because he's Shunji's boyfriend. He is showing them around the house, essentially is greeting him like a good host would. Before the two girls arrived, there was a hidden figure in glasses receiving orders to train his next two clients because they will be his last job as a trainer. So, are you connecting the dots yet? The mysterious CEO figure tells the other shadowy figure that he will have to train Takamura or treat him like an intern while he is training both Shunji and Riku. So yes, Iwashiro is the mysterious figure. I could have saved like 10 seconds of the explanation, but I revealed that earlier, but here we are. So now with this information, there are numerous questions to be asked, such as, why is this his last job? How did Riku and Shunji end up here, immediately after mourning their parents' death? Do either of them know what's about to go down? Why does Takamura look so creepy? Many questions, and we do get answers to most of them eventually. So after sitting the girls down, Iwashiro decides that he wants to introduce Takamura to them. So he goes back to where Takamura's at, and let's just say their conversation compared to what the wholesome small talk he had with the girls not too long ago is so polarizing that he has to completely change his appearance and speech patterns to fully commit to it. This reminds me of Aizen's transformation. Actually, Iwashiro is essentially the Aizen of sex training. Bleach reference for all of you normies out there who happen to stumble upon my channel but have yet to watch Bleach. So he's talking to Takamura about how to fully comply with the boss's orders of not drugging or marking the merchandise. Takamura's eager ass immediately jumps on board with drugging them, or as he says, lightly drugging them, even though that's against the orders that he heard. This man is either itching to use his newly acquired drugs or something. I don't know. Anyway, Iwashiro just tosses that idea to the side, breaks down the best way to break both of them down by pure intimidation and manipulation, i.e., having sex with her multiple times and blackmailing Riku with said information. And by his logic, since Riku is completely emotional, she will immediately comply to this training and pick it up much faster than Shunji would. The fact that he just diagnosed him like a doctor would is insane to me. How much experience is even necessary to analyze them that hard? So Iwashiro immediately gets to work to get ready to sell them both in approximately 2 months' time. So while all of that was happening, and before Shunji's first official session, they drop a hint of Riku being extremely jealous of Shunji sleeping with Iwashiro. At this point, she doesn't know that she will be sleeping with him very soon. Yeah, let's just put it that way. So for the next 4 days, she is solely training on how to use her body, quotation, and essentially learning all the sexual positions that Iwashiro is teaching her. He's a very thorough teacher, to say the least. Throughout these 4 days, she's channeling her grief from the situation, and she's turning it into a pure sexual awakening, essentially numbing all feelings that would hinder her performance. I don't know how she did it after 4 days, but this does hint toward her being extremely broken before this even started. So at this point, we get a monumental flashback that goes, well, about as bad as it can go. So surprise, Iwashiro's evil form is at the sister's funeral, and he's there on the behalf of his boss to deliver the news that he will be training them in his house. This news comes with an odd compromise and odd timing because her parents immediately died and boom, there he is. So I do believe the parents' death is somehow related to how she immediately got set up by Iwashiro. Again, they never really addressed that part, but again, my assumption is the death since he does mention that the parents were involved. So the deal with Iwashiro gives Shunji one of two options. Either to let Riku be sold as is, no training, into slavery and be tossed to the side like a piece of trash and live a constant life full of pain, agony, regret, and fear, or train with her and potentially live a lavish life as long-term sex slaves for 1 or 2 guys. So given the situation we are in, you can already tell what choice she made. Now, you're asking, why didn't she pick the first one that lets her go scotch-free? Well, joke's on you, no, her, because if she so happened to choose that option and then try to snitch to the cops, they would just instantly have her killed. So her only options were to take her chances and be with Riku while they're both slaves, or sell off Riku and get killed. Yeah, not much of a choice. Oh, remember when I said this was going to be Iwashiro's last job? Haha, guess what? That's wrong. He was so good at being a sex slave exporter that the sex slave his boss received from him 5 years ago is still being used to this day. So let's think of this business-wise, folks. If you have an employee that is so good they could churn out quality content at a constantly high rate, why would you let them go? I don't know why Iwashiro was surprised here, honestly. And when Taku finds out, he's like, oh, did you really think you're gonna leave here? I mean, you know his job this is, right? Come on, dude. Iwashiro's now massively depressed because, well, he's stuck here. After about 10 or so days in training, it is Riku's turn to, well, partake in these explicit activities. And Iwashiro follows his own plan. The plan of showing her all of Shunji's footage, which was recorded in his secret dungeon right here. And Riku's safe harbor and respectful image of her sister is now shattered. And Iwashiro basically says, yeah, so your sister did 2 weeks of intense training, so you wouldn't be a slave alone. So you better comply. Basically guilt tripping her, and then he does what he does and then he leaves. Episode 2. Now Riku was coming to the realization of how heavy Shunji's burden was. While Shunji was going through all that pain, Riku was enjoying her life, being happy, going to school, no worries at all. She even said you and Iwashiro should go on a date without realizing how much that must have hurt her. I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of funny because she realizes now how much that must have stung for her back then. LOL. Oh, and while Riku was fighting with her jealousy and blaming her sister for even being here, they're reusing footage. Do I blame them? Yes, these animations are awful. Even though she loved Iwashiro, the man still violated her. She is extremely conflicted because, again, she loved him. About a month in, he is going back and forth between them, and ever since he was told that this wasn't his last job, let's just say his motivation to continue being the best is no longer there. Yet he continues to push on, and I think the one crack in his armor is starting to become exposed. And that crack widens the moment Shunji said that they were childhood friends once. Now, she was extremely delirious and suffering from cabin fever of the highest degree, but Iwashiro feared that he could have had any connections with his product, so he immediately shuts her up by yelling at her and stopping that conversation right there, just cutting that off right there, trying to avoid the discussion. But deep down, he had a vague sense of euphoria triggered when she mentioned that they were childhood friends. So that's something. So now we are 45 days in, and Shunji has lost about 105% of her mind. How do I know this? Well, she mentions a dream she had. And in this dream, let's just say there was quite a bit of foreshadowing, to say the least. So she's walking and wandering, you know, in the nude, obviously, in a desert that's dark, dreary, with no end in sight. No plants, no sun, no other life form, just the elements, her, and sand. And then she looks down and sees herself, you know, going out of Iwashiro, and after climaxing looking at that on the spot, she chokes the dream version of herself and then decides to fuck Iwashiro in the dream while the dead her was sitting next to her. Yeah, completely lost it. Even explaining that's kind of making me go insane. And when he hears her talk about all this, he's just shook, completely shocked, and he can't process anything he just heard right now. Basically, another crack in his armor. And at this point, he does remember and confirm that they were both childhood friends. So he's having personal connections with his merchandise, quote. On day 41, he lets the sisters go at it with one another, and his boss essentially tells him, oh yeah, you'll be done with all this work once you pay off your debts. And then Iwashiro obviously asks him, well, when will that be? And my man, big CEO Mr. Bossman over here said, oh, don't worry about that. You'll pay back as soon as you can. And that was the third straw, or another crack in his armor. 3 strikes and he's officially done. I mean, would be. Get it? Because he can't quit his job. Now it is around day 50-ish of training them both, near the date to ship them out, around 10 days or so. And he comes to the realization that since he won't be able to leave his job and guarantee Shunji a stable life as a slave, he decides to take an alternative route. Yes, he takes her to another outhouse, running away from his boss, and shoots her to rid her of this meaningless existence. And of course, his boss finds him, and Iwashiro's last words were, about time you find me. Took you long enough. And it was about 3 days. And boom, he gets shot. So now the last scene we see is Riku getting trained by Taku. And my man said, well, fuck, your sister and former trainer just died. Man, he's an idiot. Did he really think he was going to get away with this? Riku responds with, well, I have no idea who those people are. That has hurt my heart deeply, and the episode ends. Now to explain Riku's line. Essentially what Iwashiro told Taku before he left was to make sure to erase Shunji and him from her memory so she can continue living on because, well, if she remembered, then obviously she wouldn't be able to handle the guilt. Holy fuck, that was a lot deeper and more depressing than I thought it was going to be, but do you see it? The similarities between Of Mice and Men and this? Fuck, this one hit me a bit, and I'm going to be honest. Like, it's the first time I actually feel bad for a quote-unquote villain, because Iwashiro here, at the end of it all, was trying to do at least one thing right in his fucked up life. But the hidden message of this show is essentially, even if you try to right your wrongs, that still doesn't erase them. And those unerasable acts may catch up to you when you least expect it. Again, I must state and proclaim, fuck. Alright guys, I don't have an outro, but if I did, it wouldn't matter because no one makes it this far to the video. Good night. Thanks for 170 subscribers. Jesus Christ, you guys are growing fast like, I don't know, microbes or some shit. Bye.